Well, hello again. My name is Tom Bond. I'm manager of KFXB-TV. This is Connect. This is the program where we have real stories from real people about a real God and how He works in our lives. And I want to thank you for joining us and being with us today. Pastor Peterson is normally your host here, but he is out of town. I'm sitting in for him today. And we have some exciting information for you, something that you probably haven't heard before in Dubuque, Iowa, and that is a Power of Prayer Adoration Chapel. And we have with us Melissa Tittle, who is the chapel coordinator, and we have also Jerry Trimble, whose father was instrumental in starting the Adoration Chapel in Dubuque. I want to welcome you both here today. It's good that you come. I've traveled in Dubuque I've been here 30 years, and driving back and forth. It was only recently that I noticed the Adoration Chapel, and I was thinking, well, you know, this is something that people should know about, and something that I wanted to know more about. So we made the contact, and Melissa was good enough to enlighten us and to agree to come in and share this information with us. You told me in the beginning that the Adoration Chapel Power of Prayer was not connected with a particular denomination in Dubuque, but with the entire Catholic community.
Correct. So typically, in most communities, adoration chapels are associated with a parish. Mm-hmm. We are distinctively Catholic because we house the Blessed Sacrament, the mm-hmm. Holy Eucharist. But the inception of this particular adoration chapel, it's considered a lay association of the faithful. So we have the blessing of the Archbishop and the Archdiocese, but we are not affiliated with a particular parish. Mm-hmm. So currently we are housed on the campus of St. Anthony's Church. So St. Anthony's, and a lot of people believe that we are connected to St. Anthony's as part of the parish, right. But we are not. But they are gracious enough to allow us to use the old convent building as our home for the Blessed Sacrament.
Right.
Yes. Good.
And Jerry, your father actually started the Adoration Chapel here in Dubuque.
Yeah, it was incorporated. The Power of Prayer Incorporated was started July 20th, 1970. It was actually incorporated. He actually started it December 8th, 1969. And what began the whole thing, or why, hey, let's start a chapel. His mother he came from a very devout family, 12 in all. His mother was very religious and had a strong faith to St. Teresa of Lisieux. And after her passing, he promised the Lord that if he would receive a sign, that he would promote prayer. Well, the night after she passes, he had a dream where saw her smiling and the Lord behind her, and said, "Well, that's a good sign."
That's good enough for me.
Yeah, and so he devoted his life to prayer, mm-hmm. To promoting prayer, and I mean, as a kid, there were still 8 siblings in the house. He quit his job and he was very successful, district sales manager for a promotional products company, mm-hmm. and just quit and then just started the Power of Prayer. And that always amazed me that, I've got 3 kids and I'm like, I don't know how he did it because,
right.
Obviously I didn't starve but he was he always started, and everything he did, it had to be approved by the Archbishop, mm-hmm. and which I think at the time was Archbishop Byrne. Mm-hmm. And so he started it, and he wanted a Adoration Chapel. He just thought the Lord was calling and said, we need a Adoration Chapel in Dubuque. So he went to Archbishop Byrne, and there was, a lot of details. Like, you just don't start one. How is it going to happen?
Right,
Where are you
right.
going to get the money? And
Sure.
and Dad was like, well, he'll start it. But he was turned down by the Archbishop a couple of times. And he just, I think the way the Archbishop put it, let's just pray about it,
Yeah.
Jared. Let's see what happens. Well, he'd keep having meetings with him and keep bringing it up. And, for other reasons, it was just no. Well, finally, he went to the Archbishop and said, well, Archbishop, is there a problem to show you the sign that the Lord really wants this? Is there a situation in the Archdiocese that just you can't fix, there's no solution to? And the Archbishop said, well, yeah, he didn't say what it was. He just said, yeah, there's an issue. And it's like, so, okay, if that gets resolved, would that be a sign showing that to start the Adoration Chapel?
Yeah.
And the Archbishop, okay, yeah. So, not sure the time, it was short time, like 3 months. The Archbishop calls him and is like, well, that problem's gone, so let's start getting this all together. So, it's just amazing to me how the Lord works sometimes, where it's just like obstacles are put in front of people, and yet he figures a way around
Right,
or
right.
Take care of it. So
I really know something about that, because Christian Television Network, with 16 television stations around the country, was started by one man who had that kind of faith. And I know about the miracles that happened that enabled him to do what God wanted him to do. Your dad was committed. Committed to God.
Well, and the growth of the power of prayer too. It was like he started it, and his faith affected other people, because
Sure.
without the people,
Absolutely.
the devout people that listened to him and said, and saw the need also, that it wouldn't have continued as long as it has now.
The chapel is established and dedicated to promoting the awareness of the value of prayer.
Yes.
And that God has taught us all through the Scriptures how important prayer was, and that the conversations with Him were taken very seriously, and that He wanted and really yearned for our prayers. So this is an opportunity for people to pray and to come into a place where they can be reverent and lift up their voices to God. And as we know, prayer is a two-way conversation and not just a monologue. But tell us about this perpetual chapel and how it operates, and who all is involved in managing it.
Okay, so I'm the chapel coordinator, and we ensure that there are always, to the best of our ability, 2 people in the chapel at all times.
And how many volunteers would that amount to?
Well, let's see, if I do my math right, it's around 360 spots a week that need to be filled.
Always looking for more.
Always looking for more.
I was going to mention that later.
Right, so we're always looking for more. So we do, so if you figure 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 2 spots every hour.
Yep.
And we have devoted people who are committed to those hours and have been for like 40 years. So that to me is a testimony to people's faith. We've had people pass away or move away, circumstances in life change.
Yeah, let me emphasize that once again, because it's almost unbelievable that there are 2 people, volunteers, there every hour of every day of every week. And that amounts to over 300 volunteers that giving of themselves and their time to be in a place of prayer, where people can feel free to come in and meditate and pray to our Lord.
Right, and people take it very seriously. We have, I know it, 2 women for sure that are there every night.
Every night.
Every night. And, you know, our Lord is very intentional. And I think if we read the scriptures, we'll find that when he says, can you not spend 1 hour with me?
1 hour.
You know,
Yeah.
1 hour.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, the beginning of his sacrifice in the garden. Okay. And that continues on to this day. And, you know, we hear all kinds of, well, my life is busy. You know, life is busy.
Sure.
And I've always heard the adage, well, if life is too busy for you to pray, then that means you need to pray more.
You need to pray
right?
more.
You need to pray more. And the Lord will increase anything that you can do
Yes.
if you just give him and entrust your life and your time with him.
Right.
He will magnify that and
Right.
give you far more time.
He will do that. I can attest to
Yes.
that if we step out in faith, he will make it happen. He
Yes.
doesn't always call people that are equipped, but he will equip those he calls.
Absolutely.
And he's always faithful in that.
Right.
Read the Old Testament scriptures, and you right away learn that there were flawed people that God used
Always.
during this whole build-up of the Christian faith. But think about it, the only people he has to use are sinners. So
That's right.
So we shouldn't be surprised with that. But continue on. What takes place in the chapel with these volunteers?
So the chapel then is set up on, we have 2 people. One is always the rosary being prayed. That was part of Jerry Trimble Sr.'s promise. I believe when he started the chapel was that the rosary would always be in prayer. It would always be prayed 24 hours. So 2 people come in at the beginning of their hour. One person dedicates themselves to the rosary for the first half hour, and the other person for the first half hour then will pray. They bring their Bibles, they bring sacred reading, or they just pray. They pray the rosary, they pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet, or they sit in silence. And you know, silence of the heart really allows the Lord to permeate and just can allow you to give over all of your troubles and lay them at the foot of his throne.
We have to be silent in that conversation so
Yeah.
he can speak to our hearts. And we
Exactly.
sometimes forget that.
Yes.
We think that we have to be talking all the time.
Right, and especially in the society now where there's so much digitally after us and competing for our attention, it's important to take that moment of silence and to be intentional and to allow the Lord to clear our minds so that we can listen more fully to him. So then at the half hour, once, you know, the rosary, most people roughly 20 to 25 minutes it takes to pray a rosary, you know, but about half an hour, then the 2 people will then switch and they just reverse roles. And that's how it's in operation. And I think people that have been going to the chapel for a long time know the rhythm. They know, you know, get to know their prayer partners and their tendencies, and and even when substitutes step in, and we have a lot of substitutes and still need substitutes. I tell people, you're my bread and butter.
Right.
You keep the chapel going when my regulars cannot take an hour, or when they have to have their, or the regulars even will substitute for me. So like I said, they pull double duty all week.
Let's speak to that. You mentioned the support of the chapel. It's supported by gifts and donations.
Donations. Strictly, we are a nonprofit. We take nothing. We have nothing that, well, payroll, everything. It's just all donations.
Yeah.
And again, we give it all. You know, it's all been given to the Lord, and we've had very generous people. People just drop donation slips, and we have endowment funds in order to keep us running. Grant programs that we apply for in order to supplement. We do give our, you know, generous St. Anthony's for allowing us to use the space. We give them a stipend every year for allowing us to be there. But yes, we are on the mercy of others in their donations to the chapel.
Wonderful.
And from day one, the original chapel was in a section right across from the library, which used to be the Archbishop's home.
I remember that.
That's where it started, and every location, again, was an act of God. It was like you know, when the Archbishop said, well, we have to move from here, first thing Dad did was get on the line and say, okay, people, we need a new spot. Let's pray, you know, to get direction. And we moved to 17th and Hebe Street based on, again, he had no money, and he just kept praying about it. Well, a person in the community came up and said, well, I've got this building, and it was, you know, it was the lady, used to be the old Girl Scouts on Hebe Street there, and then it was, forgive me, I can't remember what it turned into, but he gave it to him for well underneath of what
it could have rented for.
Yeah. And so, you know, through prayer, they were given that spot. Then when Bill McDonough was the president at the time, we had to look at that because the building was basically falling apart. We had needed another spot. First thing, you get in the prayer line and, you know, okay, Lord, give us a direction. Where can we go? And we had, as our ideas going, hey, this would be a good spot or whatever. It would never work out until through divine intervention, okay, now all of a sudden this spot was open. And I think it's been a great spot. It's centrally located.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Beautiful place.
yeah, and the devotions we have there are, you know, primarily Catholic because, you know, obviously he saw the power of the Eucharist and also the power of the Rosary. But we have other people that just come in through other faiths that are welcome as long, you know, our only rule is be respectful to the other adorers, silence as much as possible. And we've had many people, you know, afterwards come, it's like, well, I'm not Catholic, but they saw the power of it and the peaceful nature of the area and or of the chapel, and they still come. They don't take hours and do that, but they're still there praying to God, and you know, I don't think we have a problem.
Right.
It's a beautiful oasis for those people that are even in crisis. I know. I just thought of one story because we are always open 24/7.
Yeah.
You're not going to find a church that is unlocked 24/7.
Right.
And somebody, and I don't remember the exact circumstances, but somebody had lost their father, you know, and it happened in the middle of the night. And, you know, she told me, I didn't know where else to go. The first thing I thought of was come to the chapel and pray.
Right.
And to know that it was, they were drawn to come to God's holy and sacred space, to sit and be filled with the peace that only He can give, especially in a time of crisis. I mean, I've been in chapel, you know, and have seen people come in for 10 minutes. They might be in distress, or they, you know, just needed a place to go to feel like, I need to lay this down. I need to give it to you. And they come in 10 minutes, and that's all they need. Right. You know, I always say, come and give it a shot. Come in and just allow the Lord.
Give it to the Lord. Yeah, and it's a beautiful place to come and do that. We mentioned Archbishop Byrne back in the beginning. There were reasons that maybe only he knew that he was not approving this, but later he came to bless the chapel and to put his stamp of approval on it, so to speak.
Spent many an hour there too.
Yeah, did he?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's when I say he didn't, again, as humans, it's like, well, where are you going to get the money from?
Dollars
Where's it going to go?
Oftentimes,
how can you keep it running? How are you going to keep people there 24 hours a day? Those are totally understandable. And again, we forget. Maybe Archbishop Byrne was an instrument of God saying, not now, but okay, now is when I want it. You know, that kind of thing. Because to grow our faith, sometimes no is the answer that is needed.
Right, right.
And then the more you go through it and struggle and test the faith, that's when he says, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I was interested in, also in the pilgrim
Pilgrim Virgin.
Virgin's
statue.
statue, and the ministry behind that is from the chapel.
Well, yeah, that was another program he had started, or in Dubuque, and I think it was Ambassadors of Mary.
Well, yeah, right.
That he was connected with, and he started the first one in Dubuque. He started many throughout the country.
Right.
But in Dubuque, it basically is where every Saturday a group of men will come, which are called the Honor Guard, will come into your house, pray the rosary. They'll keep the statue of Mary there, which then the family and friends will invite people into their house to pray the rosary every night, 7 o'clock. And then the next Saturday, the men will come back and bring it to another house. Again, the rosary was very prominent in his life, and the devotion to Mary he was very devout in that. And this was one way he saw, obviously, praying the rosary, the family's praying rosary is, a great way of getting things. I have one story that there was a family that had the Pilgrim Virgin statue, and the mother was diagnosed with cancer. And they were having a statue there. Dad came over and, well, first of all, the wife was worried about, the statue being there in an open and with the kids, thinking, well, something might happen, and she didn't want to break the statue. But the dad said, well, no, Mary will take care of that. And one night they were getting ready, and Dad was there, and all of a sudden it was quiet in the room, and here they went to where the statue was, and the kids were praying, for her mother.
Wow.
And when she went to go get her treatment cancer was gone. Oh. So, obviously there's many miracles associated with that program, as along with the Eucharistic program.
Yeah.
So,
and you have other stories that I'm sure of such as healings and miracles that have happened as a result of prayer. Absolutely.
Like, kind of to dovetail off of what Jerry said, same situation with another man. He found out a family member of his had cancer, and he was scheduled for a holy hour. I don't know if it was reluctantly. He was scheduled for a holy hour that night. It was a late night holy hour, but it's a sacrifice. Those late night ones are sacrifices of immense proportion, and you would know. And so he did take the hour, and the family member had gone in to, have the body scan or to look at see how far the cancer had progressed, and for whatever reason, there was nothing there.
Right.
And those are, I think, physical testimonials are wonderful, and we can't explain them. But I like to also believe that with the Pilgrim Virgin program, or even when I witness families go into the Adoration Chapel together, that in itself is a miracle.
Sure.
Getting the family to pray together has, in our society, feels like it's sort of been lost. And to reclaim that, to bring the power of prayer. And I think your dad was very intentional when he named the chapel, because you can't really say power of prayer without, for us anyway, thinking of the Adoration Chapel.
Yeah. Right.
But there is so much power in it, and how it can transform people's lives.
People this day and time in our society, you hear it often that people don't believe in the power of prayer as much now as they maybe did in biblical times, but that's totally untrue. You experience that because you work with it every day, and you also, as president of that board, I come in contact with it also in the ministry that we do through Christian television, and prayer is so powerful that it's what God is doing in our society now and in our world now, trying to draw us back, I think, to Him, and to turn us back toward Him, and to accept Him as the God of the universe is what he is.
And as Catholics, praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, we find that it's more powerful than, you know, the effects of a nuclear bomb.
Right.
You've got Jesus Christ in the Holy Sacrament right in front of you, and why would we not take that opportunity to pour out those prayers for people? You know, I believe as we had been talking earlier, people drive by that chapel every day.
Yes.
And probably don't even realize the power that is behind those doors.
Right.
And this community, Dubuque, is very blessed to have people in there praying all the time
24
for
hours
their
a day.
needs, and you know, and they don't even realize it. So even as Catholics, I know there's a lot of Catholics don't know that that chapel is even there. Some don't, because it's kind of lost on us. My information will be on the website or on the television program. We are always looking for people to step in and sub with us. You can contact me. My cell phone number, I like text messaging, I will call you, I will email you. You don't have to commit to an hour every week, but if you are going to sub, that is 1 hour that roots you in God, that keeps you in front of Him. And I cannot emphasize enough the blessings that you will experience in your life when you just trust Him with 1 hour of your week.
One thing I would like to say too, if you would give her your email, you can get on her email list. She'll give you a list of the hours that are needed, you know, for someone went on vacation or whatever. You don't, there's no pressure. You don't have to respond to it, but you might find by just giving that email to her that the Lord may be calling you, and 1 hour may work for you, and all of a sudden you'll find, once you feel the peace of the chapel, I think you'll be back more than once.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming. This has been fascinating, and I for one, just totally believe in the power of prayer and participate as much as I can, and I know that others would like to, and to know that there is an opportunity even to join you in the ministry that's going on there. And I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Melissa and Jerry, thank you for coming, and
No problem. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate the work that you do.
Okay.
God bless you.
Thank you.